Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday and welcome to our introduction to Beltane. So, full disclosure, Beltane is probably one of my most favorite Sabbats, at least until we get to others, and then I'll probably think they're my favorite again. But I really do love this one. The spirit of the occasion is very fun and lighthearted and hopeful, and it promotes a zeal and a zest for life just in general. Not only for the resurgence of the natural world, although that is a major thing with every plant blooming or it's about to be blooming, and the animals are getting together, they're having their babies, there's all kinds of cuteness everywhere. But this is about also the taking joy and just the sheer pleasure of being alive and free on the earth. More than ever, I think we need to discover, or rediscover, as the case may be, that kind of joy and learning to cultivate it even under the most difficult of circumstances. So let's start with the general information. Beltane is generally celebrated around May 1st. Some people prefer to celebrate April 30th, which is known as Walpurgisnacht. I've probably butchered that word. It is a German word, and I have no German, so apologies to anyone who may have cringed. But others choose to celebrate Beltane about the time of the full moon in May. Others set their celebration to coincide when the sun reaches precisely 15 degrees in the sign of Taurus. Now, if you celebrate with a coven, a circle, or any other kind of group, naturally there's going to have to be some common agreement, and you'll have to come together to choose a time that's going to actually work for most people, because you want them to be able to attend. You want them to be able to participate in the celebration and be relaxed and have a good time and not feel rushed or worried about the next thing they need to do after that. This reduces the risk of not getting anyone's hackles up and by trying to just unilaterally choose a time that may not work with most people's schedules or take any of their other needs into account. So if you are operating with others, definitely consult them. It'll work out better for you. Now, if you are a solitary, then you do make your own decisions. Do some research on the lore about why certain times for Beltane are customary. Choose the date that makes sense to you, and after that, just be consistent in your reasoning. One of the nice things about Beltane is that it's much more likely that we will have decently warm weather and that outdoor rituals will actually be comfortable. Granted, this time of year we may have to contend with rain, and we might need to have a plan B, but the odds are at least in our favor. So Beltane celebrates the sacred marriage between the god and the goddess. The word Beltane comes from the Irish Gaelic Beltane, which is what the month of May is called, and then you have the Scottish Gaelic term of Beltane, which translates as May Day. Originally, this word came from Belfire, which is a fire that is lit in honor of the god Bel. Variations of his name include Belanus, Belanos, and Baylor. Bel is a title meaning Lord rather than a personal name, and he's considered to be a god of the sun and of fire. And there's a rather excited debate about what his proper name may or may not be. So if that's something that interests you, that could be a track that you could do some independent research on. So the bonfires of Beltane, and with the general emphasis on fire itself, this is all about the sun gaining strength and bringing warmth of summer with it. The fire is about renewal, specifically the renewal of fertility and unleashing the energies of creation as they explode fully into life. Now, whether we're thinking about fertility in a literal reproductive sense or in terms of creativity and spiritual growth, this Sabbat is hyper-focused on fertility and the role that the god and the goddess play in keeping this cycle of life going on. Life is driven to create more life and to enhance existing life. This is an opportunity for us to renew ourselves, to find ways to create, and this doesn't necessarily mean having children, although if you are wanting to expand the family, Beltane is an outstanding time for magic that has to do with sex, fertility, and pregnancy. Now, other forms of creation and fertility include making our homes real homes, not just places where we crash land and then sleep. We could also think about creation in terms of artistic endeavors, painting, sculpting, writing, music, dance, crafting, design, even fashion. We don't have to be Leonardo da Vinci or Mozart or Shakespeare, and we don't even have to be able to do things at a professional level. We just need to be able to enjoy artistic pursuits. There's value in the act of creation even if you are an amateur, just for your own pleasure. Let's see what else. Starting a business is an act of creation, especially if we're providing a product or service that has real value for people. And if we hold ourselves and our work to a high standard, that can definitely be a component. And then gardening, large or small scale, or if we have an entire farm or just a teeny tiny window box, it is all about creation. We have no shortage of options to explore. So let's go over some of the common correspondences. Colors, I think you could justify the use of just about every shade of the rainbow for Beltane. With all the flowers blooming, they're all shapes and sizes and all colors. It's just a literal banquet of color. Now, at Blackbird's Brew on Discord, during the month of April, I've been posting at least one picture of Beltane decorations for inspiration and enjoyments a day. And most of these pictures have an array of color, just color exploding everywhere. So don't feel that you need to be super restrictive when it comes to what colors you choose to incorporate into your altar or into any seasonal decorations. There's a good argument to be made for any and all of them. Now, when it comes to trees, think apple trees when they are in bloom, ash, cedar, elder, fir, hawthorn, juniper, mesquite, oak, and I would argue that oak is probably the most significant tree at Beltane. Pines, poplar, rowan, and willow, with weeping willows being my personal favorite. For plants, think angelica, blackberries, bluebells, those little blue flowers in the forest. Also cinquefoil, daisy, gorse, honeysuckle, ivy, lilac, marigold, meadowsweet, mushrooms, specifically if they're growing in a nice little fairy ring, primrose, and sweet woodruff. Stones, primarily bloodstone and sapphire, but I think it would be reasonable to incorporate any crystal, mineral, or metal that is known to amplify fertility. For animals, cattle, goats, rabbits, bees, but again, with the abundance of fertility within the animal kingdom, the representation of most animals at this time of year is very appropriate for Beltane. And of course, the Fae are strongly correspond with Beltane, a Fae of all stripes. This is a particularly busy time of year for them. And with the veil being a touch thinner than usual during Beltane, if you are supremely lucky, you might catch a glimpse of them out of the corner of your eye, if they feel like it. Now, when it comes to the deities, gods, primarily Bel, but also Balder, Cernunnos, Cupid, Eros, Anos, Freyr, the Green Man, Odin, and Pan. And on the goddess side, primarily Rhiannon, and I mention her first because her son is said to have been born during Beltane. But we also have Aphrodite, Artemis, Sibyl, Danu, Diana, Dawn, Flora, Freya, Frigg, Maya, Rhea, and Venus. Now, let's talk about some fun activities. Of course, there's the maypole. Now, to date, I've only seen maypole dances, and they look like great fun. Even if you're only celebrating with your family, if you can find a place to put a pole in the backyard, decorate it with a flower crown, ribbons, you can just dance away and have a wonderful time. Speaking of ribbons, you can hang wish ribbons from trees. Write your wish on a ribbon, incorporate symbols, bedazzle it as much as you want to, and then let the breeze send your desires into the universe. You can create a fairy garden in honor of legends about the Seelie Court gaining ascendancy for this time of year. You can make them in a container, and you can repurpose jars and boxes and whatever bits and bobs you have around the house. If you have the help of a glue gun and other decorative materials, you can make a really delightful fairy house, and probably pretty inexpensively. There are pictures all over Pinterest along with instructions if you want them, and it gives you a lot of inspiration. It should be able to kind of get you excited for the project if you decide this is something you want to do. You can also make a May basket and fill it with flowers and little treats. These aren't as common as they once were, but it's a wonderful gift to a loved one or a friend, and it makes for a nice Beltane offering. You can hold a bonfire and play music and have a feast, because fire, music, and food is always a winning combination. It's a relaxed way to celebrate, especially if you aren't inclined towards much formality in your rituals. You can make offerings to the land to help ensure a good harvest. Now, it's true that we're in the beginning of the growing season, but if we lay the foundation now and we do our work properly, it increases our odds of a good return. And not to get gloomy, but these are economically challenging times, and many people are growing as much as their own food as they can in hopes of saving at least some money and producing enough to hopefully can and preserve to help keep their pantries full through the winter. Giving an offering to spirits of the land is a graceful way to ask for their aid in this endeavor. And lastly, you could plan to have a romantic evening to take advantage of Beltane's sexual energies. Whether you're taking a new romance to the physical level, or you're celebrating your connection to your spouse, or you're wanting to rekindle a relationship, Beltane is the perfect time for romance. It goes without saying that, of course, people need to be prudent in their sexual practices, make sure you and your partner are in good health, take appropriate precautions against pregnancy if you're not wanting to conceive. But beyond that, have fun. That's what Beltane is for. So the question is, what will Beltane mean for you for this year? We're always celebrating the common themes of Beltane whenever it comes around, but each year is a little bit different. Our circumstances and need change, and I have found that each year how I'm reacting and responding to the various themes and what's most important to me, it changes from year to year. So we might ask ourselves, where do we need fertility in our lives? Whether we're growing a garden or another things that we might want to be create, this is an energy that we'll want to tap into. Is there an aspect of our lives that would benefit from more creativity just in general? What do we need to nurture this year? What can we appreciate more? How can we live and not just exist? Let's fall back into love with life and embrace it with all the highs and lows that go with it, and seize the opportunity of this Sabbath to create something good for ourselves. So that is our introduction to Beltane. Let me know what you think. If you have any fun traditions of your own that you'd like to share, by all means, make use of the comments section below, or better yet, come see us on Discord at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below, along everywhere you can find my content on social media. So I hope you will come check us out and get acquainted with us. We don't bite, I promise. It's a friendly group. But I think that's it for now. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.